I'll give your dad my job. Alexander Beaumont's voice boomed across the Summit Global boardroom in Chicago as he slammed the Japanese contract down. The billionaire's face twisted with disgust as he glared at 14-year-old Sofia Rodriguez. What's the matter, little girl? Too stupid to understand grown-up work? His $12,000 suit couldn't hide the ugliness beneath. Or maybe your kind just isn't built for thinking. Sophia looked up from her homework, Japanese textbooks scattered around her corner chair. Her father's security uniform hung nearby, a daily reminder of their place in Beaumont's world. I said, "Translate it." Beaumont's fist hit the mahogany table. Ice cubes rattled in crystal glasses. Show these executives what passes for education in the projects. The conference room fell silent. Several executives shifted uncomfortably, unsure whether to intervene or look away. Beaumont smirked, certain he'd put the child in her place. He had no idea his world was about to shatter. Sofia Rodriguez didn't flinch. She didn't cry. She simply reached down and picked up the scattered contract pages. Her dark eyes moved across the Japanese characters with unmistakable recognition. Not the hesitant scanning of someone pretending to understand, but the fluid movement of true comprehension. Beaumont's smirk began to fade as Sophia's lips moved silently, reading. The room's tension shifted from uncomfortable silence to electric anticipation. Kono keiaku ni wa juyu na mondai ga arimasu, Sophia said softly, her pronunciation flawless. Dr. Marcus Thompson, Summit's chief global operations officer, nearly dropped his coffee cup. He spoke 4 languages himself and recognized perfect Japanese when he heard it. Beaumont's face reddened. What did you just say? Sophia looked up, her voice steady and clear. I said, this contract has serious problems. 3 major translation errors that would cost your company approximately $15 million. The boardroom erupted in whispers. Phones came out as executives started recording. That's impossible, Beaumont sputtered. You're just a... The liability clause in Section 4, Sophia continued, pointing to specific Japanese characters, has been mistranslated. In Japanese, it says, your company accepts full responsibility for shipping delays. But the English version says the opposite. Dr. Thompson leaned forward, studying the contract. His Japanese wasn't fluent, but he could see the character Sophia was indicating. The payment terms are wrong, too, Sophia added, and the termination clause gives them rights to sue for damages that don't exist in your English version. Beaumont's mouth opened and closed like a fish, gasping for air. The contract he'd been about to sign would have been a financial disaster. Lucky guess, he finally managed, his voice cracking. But the damage was done. Every person in that room had just watched a 14-year-old girl save a multi-million-dollar deal while being humiliated. Dr. Thompson's eyes narrowed as he studied both Sophia and Beaumont. Where did this child learn business-level Japanese? And what else was hidden beneath the surface of someone everyone had ignored? The real question wasn't how Sophia knew Japanese. It was how many other talents were walking invisible through their halls. Beaumont's ego couldn't handle the blow. His face flushed crimson as he pulled out his gold iPhone. Fine. Let's see how you handle real conversation. His fingers jabbed at the screen. Video call with my Tokyo office right now. The boardroom's 80-inch monitor flickered to life. 3 Japanese executives appeared, bowing politely from their sleek Tokyo conference room. Tanaka-san, Beaumont began in broken, embarrassing Japanese. Watashi, check translation. Girl, here. Tanaka-san's face showed polite confusion. He responded in rapid Japanese, clearly not understanding Beaumont's butchered attempt. I don't know what he's saying, Beaumont admitted, sweating now. But show them you can. Hajime mashite, Tanaka-san. Sophia's voice cut through Beaumont's, stammering like silk. Hajime mashite, Sofia Rodriguez desu. Mushiwake arimasen? The Tokyo executive's eyes widened. Perfect keigo. The formal Japanese used in high-level business. Even native speakers struggled with such politeness levels. Tanaka-san smiled broadly and responded enthusiastically. Sophia nodded, understanding every nuance. He says they've been trying to contact your office about the contract problems for 2 weeks, Sophia translated to the stunned room. But the translation service kept missing the cultural context. Dr. Thompson leaned forward, fascinated. What cultural context? Sophia switched effortlessly back to Japanese, asking detailed questions. The Tokyo team grew animated, clearly relieved to finally communicate properly. In Japanese business culture, Sophia explained while maintaining eye contact with both screens. The way they've phrased certain sections implies long-term partnership commitment. But your English version reads like a short-term vendor agreement. They feel insulted. Beaumont's phone buzzed. Then again, other executives were getting calls. The German clients are calling. Someone whispered urgently without being asked. Sophia answered in flawless German. Guten Tag, hier ist Sophia Rodriguez von Summit Global in Chicago. The German voice sounded relieved, launching into rapid technical discussion. Sophia took notes, switching between German and English explanations for the room. They're confused about the machinery specifications, she interpreted. The technical manual was translated incorrectly. They've been installing parts backwards for 3 weeks. More phones rang. Italian, Arabic, Portuguese. Each time Sophia switched languages, like changing radio stations, her accent adjusted. Her tone matched cultural expectations. Her vocabulary remained precise and professional. The Tokyo executives were still on screen, watching in amazement. One of them spoke directly to Sophia in Japanese. Tanaka-san says, "I speak better business Japanese than their last 3 American consultants combined," Sophia translated, a slight smile playing on her lips. "He wants to know where I studied." Beaumont stood frozen, his expensive suit now wrinkled with nervous sweat. Every call Sophia handled revealed another translation disaster his company had been walking into blindly. "The Italian contract," Sophia said, hanging up another call, "violates cultural business principles. They were about to withdraw their $35 million investment tomorrow." Dr. Thompson was frantically taking notes. "How many languages do you speak?" "Fluently, 12. Sophia's voice remained calm, despite the chaos around her. Conversationally, maybe 20. The boardroom had transformed into a crisis management center. Executives clustered around Sophia like she was the eye of a storm, bringing order to communication disasters they hadn't even known existed. Beaumont's latest call ended badly. He stared at his phone in horror. "What happened?" "Doctor," Thompson asked. "The sole partnership," Beaumont whispered. "They just canceled," said our translator, "insulted their CEO's family honor yesterday." Sophia winced. Korean honorifics are complex. One wrong level of formality can end relationships. She had been sitting in this corner for months doing homework, while chaos erupted around international calls, watching deals collapse due to preventable misunderstandings. Always silent, always ignored, always knowing she could help. The Tokyo executives were still on screen, chattering excitedly in Japanese. Tanaka-san addressed Sophia directly with what sounded like an important question. "He's asking," Sophia said quietly, "if I'm available for full-time consulting work." Beaumont's phone clattered to the mahogany table. Every eye in the room turned to the 14-year-old girl who had just solved more problems in 30 minutes than their translation department had managed in months. But this was only the beginning. Dr. Thompson's voice cut through the chaos. "Sophia, where did you learn all this?" The room fell silent. Phones stopped ringing for a moment. Even the Tokyo executives on screen leaned closer to hear. Sophia's confident posture softened slightly. Her fingers traced the edge of her worn Japanese textbook. "My mom died when I was 9, she said quietly. Car accident on her way home from her second job. Dad started working double shifts to keep our apartment." She picked up a faded manga volume from her backpack. Pages were taped together, covers worn smooth from countless readings. The library became my babysitter. Free internet, warm building, quiet place to do homework. Sophia's voice carried a weight far beyond her 14 years. "I found these Japanese comics in the foreign language section. Nobody ever checked them out." Beaumont shifted uncomfortably, but everyone else hung on her words. "At first, I just liked the pictures, but then I got curious about the words. Started matching English subtitles to Japanese characters on streaming sites." Her smile was small, but genuine. One language led to another. Korean dramas, German documentaries, Italian news channels. Dr. Thompson leaned forward. "But business terminology, legal language." Sophia gestured toward the conference room's glass walls. "I've been sitting here doing homework for 2 years while Dad patrols the building, listening to international calls, watching deals fall apart because nobody understood each other." Her voice grew stronger. "I kept thinking I could fix that, but who listens to the security guard's kid?" She pulled out a smartphone with a cracked screen. "Free translation apps got me started, but they missed cultural context. So I found language exchange partners online, business students in Tokyo who needed English practice, German engineers who wanted to improve their technical communication." "You taught yourself business Japanese by talking to college students?" Dr. Thompson asked in amazement. "Every night after homework, Dad thought I was just playing games." Sophia's eyes sparkled with quiet pride. "But I was building something, a bridge to a world bigger than this corner." The Tokyo executives were still listening, understanding enough English to follow her story. Tanaka-san spoke softly in Japanese. "He says," Sophia translated, "that dedication like that deserves recognition in any language." Beaumont stared at his $6,000 watch, realizing he just tried to humiliate someone whose work ethic put his own privileged education to shame. The question wasn't where Sophia learned Japanese. It was what else she could achieve when someone finally believed in her. Dr. Thompson's phone exploded with an urgent ringtone. The caller ID flashed sole emergency. "Not now," he muttered, but the phone kept ringing. "This is our biggest Korean partnership." "I have to take this," he answered with his limited Korean vocabulary. "안녕하세요, Dr. Thompson." Rapid panicked Korean poured through the speaker. Dr. Thompson's face went pale. "Slow down, please." English. But the Korean voice grew more agitated, switching between Korean and broken English that made little sense. "What's happening?" Beaumont demanded. "I think there's been an accident at our Seoul facility or a shutdown or—" Dr. Thompson looked helpless. "Our usual translator is in surgery. The backup translator quit yesterday after that honorifics incident you caused." The Korean voice was shouting now. Other voices joined in the background. The crisis was escalating by the second. Sophia stood up quietly. "May I?" Dr. Thompson hesitated for just a moment, then handed over the phone. Sophia began, her voice immediately calming. The change was instant. The panicked Korean voice slowed down, relief evident even to non-Korean speakers. Sophia listened intently, asking clarifying questions in Korean. Her face grew serious as she absorbed the information. "Dr. Thompson?" Sophia said, covering the phone. "It's not an accident. It's worse. The entire production line stopped because of contaminated materials. But that's not the real problem." "What's the real problem?" "The Korean team discovered the contamination 3 hours ago. They've been trying to contact headquarters, But every call got routed to translation services that couldn't understand the technical terminology. The contamination is spreading to other production areas. Dr. Thompson's face went white. How much product? Sophia spoke rapidly in Korean, getting precise numbers. $52 million of inventory, potentially ruined and counting. Beaumont found his voice. This is insane. You're letting a child... Be quiet, Dr. Thompson snapped. Sophia, what do they need? Sophia was already back on the phone, speaking technical Korean with the Seoul team. Her voice carried authority despite her age, using formal business language that commanded respect. They need emergency protocol authorization, Sophia translated while still listening. The plant manager won't shut down production without direct orders from American headquarters, but he also won't continue production with contaminated materials. That's a $55 million decision. Dr. Thompson said, I need to understand exactly what happened. For the next 20 minutes, Sophia became the bridge between two worlds. She translated not just words, but cultural context. When the Korean team expressed concerns about losing face, she explained the concept to Dr. Thompson. When Dr. Thompson needed technical specifications, Sophia found Korean engineers who could provide exact details. The contamination came from a new supplier, Sophia explained, after a lengthy technical discussion. But the Korean team was afraid to directly criticize the supplier choice because it was made by American management. In Korean culture, that's disrespectful, Dr. Thompson finished. So they tried to hint around it. Exactly. But the translation service didn't understand the subtlety. They kept translating their polite suggestions as approval of the supplier. Dr. Thompson made the call. Emergency shutdown authorized. The Korean team erupted in relieved voices through the phone. But then Sophia's expression changed as she listened to new information. Dr. Thompson, she said quietly, there's something else. This contaminated supplier, they're also providing materials to Beaumont Industries. Beaumont's face went ashen. His Seoul facility was probably contaminated too, but his team had no way to communicate the problem. Sophia, Dr. Thompson said, can you help them contact Beaumont's plant? The 14-year-old girl looked at the man who had humiliated her 30 minutes ago. Of course, she said simply. It's the right thing to do. Ah. Beaumont's hand slammed down on the conference table. Absolutely not. His face was crimson with rage and embarrassment. The Seoul crisis had cost him millions, too. But Sophia's warning had prevented complete disaster. Instead of gratitude, his humiliation had curdled into vicious resentment. I don't care how impressive that little show was, he snarled at Dr. Thompson. She's 14 years old. This is a Fortune 500 company, not a charity case. Dr. Thompson kept his voice level. Sophia just saved both our companies. Lucky guesswork. Beaumont's voice cracked with desperation. Real business requires degrees, certifications, professional credentials. You can't seriously consider promoting the security guard's kid. He began pacing like a caged animal, his $4,000 Italian shoes clicking against marble floors. What's next? Hiring cafeteria workers as CFOs? Letting janitors run board meetings? Sophia sat quietly in her corner, pretending to focus on homework while adults argued about her future. But her hands trembled slightly as she gripped her pencil. Beaumont pulled out his phone, making calls in full view of everyone. Legal department. I need liability assessments on using uncertified translators. Insurance won't cover amateur mistakes. His voice grew louder, ensuring Sophia could hear every word. HR policy clearly requires college degrees for professional positions. We can't make exceptions just because someone memorized a few phrases. Dr. Thompson's assistant hurried in with a stack of papers. The Seoul incident report, she whispered. Preliminary damages if we hadn't caught the contamination. Dr. Thompson scanned the numbers and went pale. $85 million in potential losses prevented by a 14-year-old girl with a cracked smartphone. But Beaumont wasn't finished. He approached Sophia's corner, his shadow falling across her homework. "You think you're smart, don't you?" His voice was quiet now, more dangerous. "But intelligence without proper credentials is just noise. Stay in your lane, little girl. The grown-ups have real work to do." He dropped his business card on her textbooks. "When you're old enough for a real education, maybe my company will have an entry-level position. Filing papers, answering phones, something appropriate." Sophia looked up at him with steady eyes. "What if I don't want to work for you?" Beaumont laughed coldly. "Sweetheart, people like you don't get choices. You get opportunities and you just burned yours." The room watched in uncomfortable silence as Beaumont gathered his papers. "Dr. Thompson, when this experiment fails, and it will, don't say I didn't warn you. Talent requires cultivation, not just raw ability." After Beaumont left, the atmosphere remained poisoned. Other executives whispered among themselves, shooting uncertain glances at Sophia. "Maybe he has a point," someone murmured. "About liability issues. Company policy exists for reasons. Setting precedents could be dangerous." Dr. Thompson found himself fielding calls from his own boss, the board of directors, legal counsel. Everyone is suddenly concerned about appropriate procedures and professional standards. Sophia packed her textbooks slowly, the weight of institutional resistance settling on her young shoulders. She'd proven her value, saved millions of dollars, and demonstrated skills that seasoned professionals lacked. But the system had antibodies designed to reject foreign elements, no matter how beneficial. "Sophia," Dr. Thompson said as the room emptied. "Don't listen to them." But Sophia's confidence had been shaken. Maybe Beaumont was right. Maybe she'd overreached. Maybe the security guard's daughters should stick to homework and dreams. "I should get back to studying," she said quietly. "Dad will be here soon to start his shift." As she walked toward the door, her reflection caught in the conference room's glass walls. For a moment, she looked exactly like what Beaumont claimed she was, just a kid playing in a world too big for her. The question was whether anyone would help her grow into it, or watch the system crush her potential before it could bloom. At 6:17 a.m., Dr. Thompson's phone shattered the morning silence with emergency alerts. His heart pounded as he read the message. "Critical incident. Osaka facility. Immediate response required." He rushed to Summit headquarters, finding the building eerily quiet, except for security crews finishing their night shifts. The crisis command center was empty, too early for normal staff. Then he spotted a familiar figure in the conference room. Sophia sat at the same table where Beaumont had humiliated her. Homework spread out beside emergency contact lists she'd pulled from office files. "Sophia, what are you doing here so early?" "Dad starts his shift at 5 a.m. on Tuesdays," Sophia explained, not looking up from a Japanese safety manual she'd found. "I come early to study before school." "Doctor," Thompson's phone rang again. "Osaka emergency line." The caller ID read. He answered with broken Japanese, but the voice on the other end was frantic, rapid, technical. Industrial terminology mixed with medical words he couldn't begin to understand. "I need the emergency translator," Dr. Thompson said desperately. Lives could be at stake, but the translation service's earliest availability was 9 a.m. 9 a.m., 3 hours away. Sophia stood up quietly. "May I help?" Dr. Thompson hesitated for only a second before handing over the phone. She began calmly. The Japanese voice immediately slowed, relief audible even through static. Sophia listened intently, asking precise technical questions in flawless Japanese. Her face grew serious as she absorbed details. "Dr. Thompson, there's been a chemical leak in Building C. 3 workers hospitalized. The emergency protocols in English don't match the Japanese safety manual." "What do you mean?" The Japanese manual requires evacuating a 500 mph radius for this specific chemical. The English version says 200 centimeters workers in Building D are still inside the danger zone. Dr. Thompson's blood went cold. How many workers? Sophia spoke rapidly in Japanese, getting real-time updates. 47 people. The plant manager is afraid to evacuate without headquarters approval, but he's also afraid to leave them in danger. For the next hour, Sophia became the lifeline between Osaka and Chicago. She translated medical terminology for paramedics, coordinated with Japanese emergency responders, and helped navigate complex safety protocols. But more than translation, she provided cultural bridge work. When the Japanese plant manager hesitated to criticize American safety procedures, Sophia found respectful ways to communicate the urgency without causing loss of face. He's saying the American manual might have errors, Sophia translated diplomatically. But he means the manual is wrong, and people will die if we don't fix it immediately. She handled technical chemical compound names, medical symptoms, legal liability discussions with Japanese authorities. Her vocabulary included terms most college chemistry majors wouldn't know. How do you know all this? Dr. Thompson asked during a brief pause. I've been reading the facility manuals while doing homework here for 2 years, Sophia admitted. Dad secures the technical documentation office. I got curious about the different language versions. The crisis peaked when Japanese emergency services needed detailed building layouts to plan their response. Sophia had studied those documents too, translating complex architectural terminology while coordinating with firefighters who spoke no English. By 8 a.m., the situation was under control. All workers evacuated safely. The chemical leak contained potential disaster averted. The Osaka plant manager called personally to thank headquarters. Through Sophia's translation, he delivered a message that made Dr. Thompson's eyes water. He says, Sophia explained, that in 30 years of industrial work, he's never experienced such clear, precise communication during a crisis. He wants to know if our translator would consider consulting for their safety training programs. Dr. Thompson looked at the 14-year-old girl who had just saved dozens of lives before most people finish their morning coffee. Sophia, he said quietly, how do you feel about that consulting position being permanent? Dr. Thompson spent his weekend diving deep into company records. What he discovered made his stomach turn. 17 translation errors in the past 6 months, each one preventable, each one costly. The German machinery contract that failed because technical specifications were mistranslated. $9.5 million loss. The Italian partnership that dissolved over cultural misunderstandings. $18 million gone. The Korean supplier relationship that ended in lawsuits. $25 million in legal fees and damages. But buried in email threads, he found something else. Tiny digital breadcrumbs leading back to Sophia. A forwarded message from 2 months ago. Security staff noticed possible translation discrepancy in German Contract Section 4. Filed away, ignored. Another email from March. Security crew member reported Italian document may contain cultural sensitivity issues. Dismissed as irrelevant. A service request from January. Young girl in conference room C asked if Korean honorifics in the partnership agreement were appropriate level. Never followed up. Sophia had been trying to help for months. Quietly, politely, invisibly. Dr. Thompson printed everything and called an emergency Monday morning meeting. The boardroom filled with senior executives, their faces skeptical as he laid out the evidence. $53 million, he announced, spreading financial reports across the mahogany table. That's what our translation failures cost us this year. Failures that could have been prevented. Beaumont, attending virtually from his Miami office, scoffed through the screen. You're not seriously suggesting... I'm suggesting we've been sitting on the solution for 2 years. Dr. Thompson's voice cut sharp as steel, while paying premium rates for professional translation services that deliver amateur results. He displayed Sophia's weekend test scores, perfect marks on Japanese business proficiency, native-level Korean cultural competency, advanced German technical terminology certification. These aren't high school language grades, Dr. Thompson explained. These are graduate-level professional certifications. Sophia scored higher than our current translation team on every assessment. Board member Elena Park leaned forward. What exactly are you proposing? A new position, global communications specialist, judged by demonstrated competency, not traditional credentials. Absolutely not. Beaumont's voice crackled through speakers. This sets a dangerous precedent. Next, you'll promote cafeteria workers to executive positions. Dr. Thompson had anticipated this objection. Alexander, your company lost $95 million this quarter due to communication failures. Ours would have lost $53 million without Sophia's interventions. He clicked to the next slide. Financial projections showing potential savings, revenue increases from improved international relationships, competitive advantages in markets where they currently struggled. The Tokyo partnership we thought was dead. They're reconsidering because of last week's communication breakthrough. The Seoul facility wants to expand operations. Italian clients are requesting additional meetings. All because of a 14-year-old girl, another board member asked skeptically. All because of someone who understands that translation isn't just about words. It's about building bridges between worlds. Dr. Thompson pulled up the Osaka crisis recording. Listen to this. For 5 minutes, the board heard Sophia's calm, professional voice coordinating an international emergency. Technical terminology flowed seamlessly. Cultural nuances were navigated expertly. When the recording ended, the room was silent. Beaumont's face on screen had gone pale. Where did she learn industrial safety protocols? By paying attention while everyone else looked through her, Dr. Thompson said quietly. The question isn't whether she's qualified. The question is whether we're smart enough to recognize talent when it's been sitting right in front of us. Elena Park spoke first. Motion to approve the position. Seconded came from across the table. Beaumont's objection was overruled 6 votes to 1. Dr. Thompson found Sophia exactly where he expected, tucked away in the supply closet that doubled as her private study space, eating a peanut butter sandwich while reviewing Korean grammar. Mind if I join you? Dr. Thompson asked, holding 2 steaming cups of coffee. Sophia looked surprised, but scooted over on the small stool. There's only 1 chair. The floor is fine. Dr. Thompson sat cross-legged on the linoleum, handing Sophia the 2nd cup. Hot chocolate, not coffee. Figured you might prefer it. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, surrounded by cleaning supplies and the distant hum of fluorescent lights. No mahogany table, no crystal glasses, no watching executives, just 2 people sharing a quiet moment. I have something to tell you, Dr. Thompson began, about the new position. Sophia's hands stilled on her textbook. Let me guess. The board said no. Actually, they said yes. Dr. Thompson smiled at Sophia's shocked expression. But first, I want to share something with you about why this matters to me. He pulled out his phone, showing a faded photo of himself at 23, wearing dusty clothes in what looked like a rural clinic. Peru Peace Corps 25 years ago. I thought I spoke Spanish. It turned out I spoke textbook Spanish. Real life was different. Sophia studied the photo carefully. You look scared. Terrified. I was failing at everything. Patients couldn't understand me. Medical procedures got confused. People were getting hurt because of my communication mistakes. Dr. Thompson's voice grew soft. I was ready to quit. What changed? Juan Morales. He secured the clinic at night, but he spoke 3 languages perfectly. Quechua dialect, Spanish, and English he'd learned from medical textbooks. Dr. Thompson's eyes brightened. He saved my career and probably several lives by teaching me how to really listen, not just translate words. Sophia leaned forward, understanding the parallel. Juan was brilliant, but everyone saw him as just the security guy. Sound familiar? Doctor, Thompson touched Sophia's worn Japanese dictionary. I never got to properly thank him. He died in an earthquake 2 years later. That's sad. It is, but it taught me something important. Talent doesn't come with traditional packaging. And when you find it, you don't waste time asking for credentials. You make room for it to grow. Dr. Thompson pulled out an official-looking document. This is your offer letter. Full salary, benefits, travel budget for international partnerships. And one more thing. He handed Sophia a scholarship application packet. Full university tuition. Any school you want, any major you choose. The company will pay. Sophia's eyes filled with tears as she stared at the papers. My dad always said I should speak up for what's right, but I forgot that includes speaking up for myself. Your grandfather would be proud, Dr. Thompson said gently. And Juan Morales would be too. Outside the supply closet, the corporate world continued its busy hum. But inside, two people sat quietly, understanding that sometimes the most important conversations happen in the smallest spaces. 3 weeks later, the Summit Global boardroom buzzed with nervous energy. Today would make or break the company's international expansion dreams. The Global Tri-Continental Partnership, a $600 million joint venture with consortium leaders from Tokyo, Berlin, and Rio de Janeiro, represented the largest deal in Summit's history. 18 months of negotiations had led to this final signing ceremony. Dr. Thompson checked his watch anxiously. Where's our translation team? His assistant's face was pale. Food poisoning. All 3 translators are in the ER. Contaminated catering from last night's prep meeting. What about backup services? Earliest availability is Thursday. The international partners fly out tonight. Across town, Alexander Beaumont was having his own final meeting with the consortium's representatives. His competing proposal promised the same partnership opportunities, but his company had deeper pockets and established relationships. Dr. Thompson's phone buzzed with a text from Beaumont. Heard about your translator situation. Such a shame when technical difficulties derail major deals. See you in the headlines. The consortium representatives began arriving. Tanaka-san from Tokyo, dignified in his perfectly pressed navy suit. Frau Müller from Berlin, carrying thick folders of technical specifications. Senor Costa from Rio de Janeiro, his presence commanding immediate respect. All 3 had flown halfway around the world for this moment. Postponement wasn't an option. Dr. Thompson, his assistant whispered urgently. Sophia's here early with her father. Should I send her in now? Sophia entered the boardroom wearing her school uniform. Navy blazer, crisp white shirt, modest skirt. She looked impossibly young among the suited executives and international power brokers. Gentlemen and Madame, Dr. Thompson announced, this is Sophia Rodriguez, our global communications specialist. Tanaka-san's eyebrows rose slightly. Miller's mouth opened in surprise. Costa studied Sophia with calculating eyes. Sophia said, bowing perfectly to Tanaka-san, Hajime mashite. Tanaka-san's surprise melted into a genuine smile. He responded warmly in Japanese, clearly impressed by her formal business language. Guten Tag, Frau Müller, Sophia continued, switching languages seamlessly. Müller leaned forward intrigued. She responded in rapid technical German, testing her vocabulary. Hola, Senor Costa, Sophia concluded, her Portuguese pronunciation flawless. Senor Costa's stern expression softened slightly as he replied in Portuguese, asking about her language training. For the next 6 hours, Sophia performed linguistic magic. The German technical specifications required precise engineering terminology. When Müller described complex manufacturing processes, Sophia didn't just translate. She understood the mechanical concepts, asking clarifying questions that impressed even the German engineers. The Japanese cultural protocols were even more challenging. Tanaka-san's team had specific concerns about business hierarchy and decision-making authority. Sophia navigated the delicate honorific systems, ensuring every nuance of respect was properly conveyed. The Brazilian business customs added another layer of complexity. Costa's cultural and regulatory considerations needed careful handling. Sophia demonstrated deep understanding of Brazilian business principles, proposing contract modifications that honored local requirements while maintaining commercial viability. But the real test came when negotiations hit a major snag. Environmental regulations threatened to derail the entire partnership. German standards conflicted with American practices. Japanese protocols required different documentation. Brazilian environmental principles demanded additional compliance measures. The room temperature rose as voices became heated. 3 different regulatory systems, 3 different cultural approaches to problem solving, 3 different languages expressing frustration. Sophia stood at the center of the storm, translating not just words, but emotions, cultural context, and unspoken concerns. Frau Müller isn't questioning American environmental standards, she explained to Dr. Thompson, while simultaneously listening to Costa's Portuguese concerns. She's trying to explain that German law requires specific certifications that don't exist in our current proposal. She turned to Tanaka-san, speaking in formal Japanese, then translated his response. Tanaka-san says the Japanese consortium can provide environmental technology that satisfies all 3 regulatory systems, but they need assurance about long-term partnership commitment. Senor Costa spoke rapidly in Portuguese, gesturing toward technical documents. Senor Costa has a solution, Sophia announced. His consortium specializes in environmentally sustainable manufacturing that exceeds all 3 countries' requirements. But the proposal needs local compliance review. For 2 hours, Sophia facilitated the most complex negotiation of her young life. She wasn't just translating. She was synthesizing solutions across cultures, finding common ground where none seemed to exist. Then Beaumont burst through the conference room doors. "Stop this immediately." His face was flushed with desperation. "Dr. Thompson, you cannot legally execute international contracts using an uncertified translator. I'm here on behalf of my legal team to prevent this breach of protocol." The room fell silent. All eyes turned to Sophia. Beaumont pulled out official documents. "This young lady lacks proper credentials for legal translation. Any contract signed today will be invalid in international court." Dr. Thompson stood slowly, his voice deadly calm. "Alexander, I have Sophia's certification results right here. He produced official documents. 99th percentile on all language assessments. Higher scores than your current translation team." Beaumont's confidence cracked. That's impossible." Tanaka-san spoke quietly in Japanese. Sophia translated. "He says he's worked with many professional translators. He's never encountered someone who understands both language and cultural soul so deeply." Miller nodded vigorously, speaking in German. "She agrees." Sophia continued. "She says technical translation requires more than vocabulary. It requires understanding the engineering mind behind the words." Costa addressed Beaumont directly in perfect English. "Young man, this girl has demonstrated more professional competence in 6 hours than your company's translator showed in 6 months of preliminary negotiations." Beaumont's face went ashen as he realized his sabotage attempt had backfired spectacularly. "Gentlemen and Madame, Dr. Thompson announced, shall we proceed with signing?" 3 pens moved across 3 sets of contracts, $600 million in partnership agreements facilitated by a 14-year-old girl in a school uniform. As the international partners shook hands, Tanaka-san spoke privately to Dr. Thompson in English. "This young lady is not just a translator. She is a bridge builder Guard her carefully. Beaumont left without another word, his empire's biggest opportunity lost to the child he'd tried to humiliate. Sophia gathered her notes quietly, just another day's work completed before homework time. But everyone in that room knew they'd witnessed something extraordinary, the moment when talent finally met opportunity and the world shifted to make room for both. 6 months later, the same Summit Global Conference room hummed with celebration, but now everything had changed. Sofia Rodriguez sat at the head of the mahogany table, the exact seat where Alexander Beaumont had once humiliated her. Her new business cards read Director of Global Communications, and her corner office overlooked the city skyline. The transformation was complete, but the journey had been a whirlwind. The Tri-Continental Partnership's success had made international headlines. 14-year-old translator Seal's $600 million deal went viral within hours. News outlets from Tokyo to Rio de Janeiro covered the story of the girl genius who spoke the language of global business. But Sophia's promotion was just the beginning of the revolution. Dr. Thompson had used the media attention to launch Summit's Hidden Talent Initiative. Company-wide skills assessments revealed astonishing discoveries. A security guard with advanced engineering degrees from Mexico, a cafeteria worker who held a PhD in economics from Argentina, a maintenance tech who spoke 7 Asian languages and had managed international trade in Thailand. "We weren't just hiring employees," Dr. Thompson explained to the Wall Street Journal reporter. "We were importing entire libraries of knowledge and then ignoring them." The policy changes were swift and comprehensive. Skills-based hiring replaced degree requirements for many positions. Language certification programs were offered to all staff. Tuition reimbursement expanded to cover any employee seeking to formalize their existing knowledge. Most importantly, they instituted talent recognition protocols, formal systems for employees to report overlooked skills in their colleagues. The financial results were staggering. International partnerships increased by 350%. Translation errors dropped to 0. Employee satisfaction soared across all levels as people felt seen and valued for their complete capabilities, not just their job titles. But the real revolution happened when other companies began copying Summit's model. Google launched a similar program and discovered that 65% of their facilities' staff held advanced degrees from their home countries. Microsoft found multilingual security workers who could improve their international user experience design. Even Beaumont Industries, now under new management after Alexander Beaumont's forced resignation, adopted skills-based evaluation systems. The Harvard Business School case study called it the Sophia effect. Recognizing that talent exists everywhere, but opportunity only exists where someone chooses to look. Sophia herself had become something of a celebrity, but she wore the attention with characteristic grace. International business conferences invited her as a keynote speaker. The United Nations asked her to consult on cross-cultural communication protocols. Documentary crews followed her story for a film about overlooked talent in America. Today's celebration was special, though. The board had approved Sophia's most ambitious project yet, the Hidden Talent Foundation. $100 million in scholarship funding, Dr. Thompson announced to the assembled crowd, available to any service worker seeking language certification or professional development. The first recipient was Carlos Mendoza, the Summit night security guard who had turned out to be a former civil engineer from Colombia. He would use his scholarship to get his American engineering certification while continuing to work part-time. The second recipient made Sophia's eyes water. Her own father, who would finally pursue the teaching degree he'd abandoned 20 years ago to support his family. But the moment that defined the entire journey came when the elevator doors opened and Alexander Beaumont walked in. The room fell silent. Beaumont looked older, humbler, wearing a simple off-the-rack suit instead of his former designer armor. He carried a single folder and avoided eye contact with most people. "What is he doing here?" someone whispered. Beaumont approached Sophia's chair slowly. "Miss Rodriguez, I have something for you." With shaking hands, he placed a job application on the table. "I'm applying for a position at your foundation, Community Outreach Coordinator. I know I don't deserve consideration, but I want to help other people avoid the mistakes I made." Sophia studied the application carefully. Under previous experience, Beaumont had written, "Former CEO who learned that judging people by their positions instead of their potential is the most expensive mistake you can make." "Why should we trust you?" Sophia asked quietly. Beaumont's voice cracked slightly. "Because I understand something now that I was too arrogant to see before. That day I humiliated you. I wasn't just attacking a child. I was attacking every person who ever felt invisible, overlooked, or underestimated." He pulled out his phone, showing a photo of a young Japanese girl. "This is my daughter, Emma. She's 13, and she wants to be a diplomat. She speaks 4 languages she learned from our security guard, Miguel." Beaumont's voice grew stronger. "For years, I saw Miguel as just the help. But Emma sees him as a teacher, a mentor, a gateway to the world. My daughter learned more about international relations from our security guard than I learned in 4 years at Stanford Business School." Sophia looked around the room at faces that had witnessed her own transformation, from invisible to invaluable, from overlooked to essential. "Mr. Beaumont," she said finally, "the Foundation's mission is giving second chances to people whose first chance was taken away. I suppose that includes people who threw away their own first chances." She signed his application. Probationary acceptance. 6 months to prove you understand that talent whispers in every language, but opportunity only speaks to those willing to listen. Beaumont's eyes filled with tears as he shook her hand, the same hand he'd once dismissed as unworthy of his time. The celebration continued around them, but Sophia stepped away to the conference room windows. She could see the city spread below, millions of people going about their daily lives. How many hidden talents were walking those streets? How many potential solutions to the world's problems were patrolling buildings, securing offices, or guarding doors? Her phone buzzed with a text from Tanaka-san in Tokyo. "Our partnership profits exceeded projections by 220%. But more importantly, we've started our own hidden talent initiative. Thank you for teaching us that wisdom has no age limits." Similar messages arrived from Berlin and Rio de Janeiro. The ripple effect was spreading globally. Dr. Thompson joined her at the window. "Any regrets about that corner where you used to do homework?" Sophia smiled, touching the glass. "No regrets. That corner taught me that sometimes the best view isn't from the top. It's from wherever you are when you decide to stop being invisible." She turned back to the celebration where her father was accepting congratulations on his teaching program acceptance. Former security guards compared notes with former executives. Languages mixed and blended as people shared their stories. In the corner where she used to sit, a new young person was doing homework, the son of their newest facilities supervisor. Sophia made a mental note to introduce herself tomorrow. After all, you never knew what hidden talents might be sitting quietly in the corners, waiting for someone to finally notice they'd been there all along. The revolution wasn't just about one 14-year-old girl speaking Japanese. It was about a world finally learning to listen in every language talent chose to whisper. 5 years later, Sophia Rodriguez stood in her office on the 40th floor of Summit Global Tower, reviewing quarterly reports that still amazed her. The Hidden Talent Foundation had certified over 12,000 multilingual professionals worldwide. Company revenues had quadrupled. International partnerships flourished in 42 countries. But the numbers that mattered most were personal ones. Carlos Mendoza had just been promoted to senior civil engineer leading infrastructure projects across Latin America. Her father had graduated teaching school with honors and now managed education programs for Spanish-speaking communities. Alexander Beaumont had become the Foundation's most effective advocate, speaking at conferences about the cost of unconscious bias. Through her office window, Sophia watched the familiar rhythm of corporate life below. But now she saw it differently. The security officer checking the lobby spoke fluent Arabic with his son on the phone. The cafeteria coordinator was actually a former economics professor from Peru. The night patrol guard held 3 engineering degrees and consulted on building security improvements. Talent was everywhere, finally visible to those who had learned to look. A soft knock interrupted her thoughts. "Miss Rodriguez." A young voice spoke hesitantly in accented English. Sophia turned to see Maria, the new facilities assistant's 16-year-old daughter. She held a smartphone with a cracked screen, much like hers had been years ago. "I heard you speak many languages," Maria continued nervously. "My mother says maybe you could help me with something." Sophia smiled, remembering another nervous teenager in another corner. "What languages do you speak, Maria?" "Spanish, German, and Japanese through apps," she admitted. "I want to help my mother communicate better with the German engineering consultants, but I don't know if my pronunciation is correct." The echoes of her own journey rang clear. A young person learning languages through whatever free resources they could find, driven by love and the desire to help. "Show me what you've learned," Sophia said gently. For the next 30 minutes, Maria demonstrated remarkably advanced German skills. Her grammar was perfect, her technical vocabulary impressive, her cultural understanding nuanced. "Maria," Sophia said finally, "have you ever considered that your mother isn't the only one who could benefit from your skills?" Her eyes widened as she explained the Foundation's newest program, high school language certification that could earn college credit and professional credentials. As Maria left with scholarship applications and Sophia's personal mentorship offer, she realized the most important truth of her journey. Her story wasn't unique. It was universal. Right now, in offices and schools and communities across the world, countless talented people remain invisible. Not because they lack ability, but because systems aren't designed to recognize it. The statistics were staggering. 45% of service workers in major cities speak multiple languages fluently. 65% of recent immigrants hold advanced degrees from their home countries. Billions of dollars in economic potential remain untapped because talent wears the wrong uniform or speaks with the wrong accent. But the solution was equally powerful. Recognition, opportunity, and the courage to challenge assumptions about who deserves a chance to shine. Tomorrow, you'll encounter someone whose job title doesn't reflect their true capabilities. Someone securing your office, serving your coffee, maintaining your building, caring for your children. The question isn't whether they have talents you can't see. The question is, will you take the time to look? Maybe it's the barista who speaks 4 languages but can't afford college. Maybe it's the security guard who holds engineering degrees that aren't recognized in America. Maybe it's the teenager doing homework in the corner while their parents work a second job. Your moment of recognition could change everything. Not just for them, but for entire communities, companies, and industries that benefit when hidden talents finally get their chance to contribute. Start small. Ask about someone's background. Listen to the languages spoken around you. Challenge hiring practices that prioritize credentials over capability. Support policies that create pathways for skills-based advancement. Share this story if you believe talent exists everywhere. Comment with a time you were underestimated or when you discovered hidden brilliance in someone others overlooked. Subscribe to Blacktail Stories for more stories that prove potential has no prerequisites. The Hidden Talent Foundation continues expanding globally, providing language certification scholarships for service workers worldwide. Link in description if you want to turn inspiration into action. But remember, the most powerful foundation isn't an organization. It's the choice each of us makes to see people fully, to listen carefully, and to create opportunities where none existed before. Because talent whispers in every language, but opportunity only speaks to those brave enough to listen. The future belongs to those who recognize that genius has no dress code, wisdom has no age limit, and potential wears every uniform.